Well, sad news in rock and roll. We just found out that Ace Frehley has in fact died. He was 74 years old. He fell in the studio and there was a brain bleed, and family and friends were called to say that this does not look good. And we prepared a little memorial for him. And at the end, we'll come back on and you can please share your memories of this monumental band. In the 70s, there was no one who had forgotten Kiss. I remember I got Dressed to Kill, I had Destroyer, I had Alive One, and I stayed with them throughout the 70s for the most part. I kind of jumped off the bandwagon, but there was reunions. We're going to talk about that. But Ace Frehley has been pronounced dead. All the major publications are announced it, and he was 74 years old. Here's a little memorial we put together for Ace. He was one of the mysterious ones, the one behind the gray makeup, the cosmic laugh, and those screaming Les Paul riffs that helped define the sound of 1970s rock. Sources close to the guitarist told TMZ that Ace's condition worsened after the accident in his home studio, leaving him on a ventilator and unresponsive. Ace was born Paul Daniel Frehley on April 27, 1951 in the Bronx, New York. He was from a working class family. Both his sister and his brother were musical. The name Ace came early for him because he always seemed to ace the things that he did, including, of course, guitar playing. Ace was the result of a rough and tumble lifestyle in the New York streets, street gangs, loud music, and of course, the birth of rock and roll. He once said he could have easily gone down the wrong path considering the company he was keeping. But what saved him? The guitar. He picked it up when he was 13 years old, inspired by the likes of, well, Jimi Hendrix, Jeff Beck, and Albert Lee. He dropped out of school, but later got his diploma. In those days, he played in a string of New York bands like the Muff Divers, the Four Roses, and Cathedral. But his life changed in 1972 when he answered an ad in the Village Voice. It was the birth of Kiss. The ad was placed by Gene Simmons, Kiss's bass player, and Paul Stanley, another guitarist and a singer. Actually, everyone in Kiss sang. They were looking for a lead guitarist for their new band. And Ace showed up late wearing one orange sneaker and one red one, but he blew everyone away. Paul Stanley later said, "The minute Ace plugged in, we knew we had something special." So Ace joined Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, and drummer Peter Criss, and they became Kiss, one of the most iconic bands in rock history. With his smoking guitar, space-age persona, and wild solos, Ace became the band's secret weapon. There were tunes like Shock Me, Cold Gin, Love Gun, and Parasite. He made the guitar, as they say, talk. In the mid-1970s, we all know it, Kiss was unstoppable. The makeup, the pyrotechnics, the blood, the fire, the guitars, everything. In 1978, each member of Kiss released a solo album. On the cover was just them by themselves, and Ace Frehley's album was the biggest. It also had the biggest hit, Russ Ballard's New York Groove. That song climbed to number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. Giving Ace something the others didn't have, a bona fide solo hit. His blend of swagger and sincerity captured the spirit of New York City, and at that point proved that he could stand alone. Ace later said, "I didn't really want to do a solo album, but once I started recording, I realized I had a lot to say." But the price of success, well, it's always high, especially when there's a lot of money involved and you're young. The egos. The late 70s were a turbulent period for Kiss. There was exhaustion and excess. And Ace had a lot of problems with the direction the band was going. There was substance abuse and problems that led to his exit from the band in 1982. He went on to form Ace Frehley's Comet in the mid-80s, a band that brought him back to the charts and the stage. Their debut album in 1987 produced tracks like Rock Soldiers and Into the Night. He once told Guitar World, "I didn't leave Kiss because I stopped loving music. I left because I stopped loving the politics." Even outside Kiss, Ace Frehley's influence loomed large. Guitarists like Slash and Dimebag Darrell have cited him as a major influence, not just for his tone, but for his attitude. Slash from Guns N' Roses once said, "Ace Frehley made me want to play guitar. That simple." And in 1996, the impossible happened, a reunion. Kiss reunited with the original lineup. The makeup returned, the pyro returned, and Ace was back in his suit as the Spaceman. The world tour was one of the highest grossing of that decade, rekindling that magic for millions of fans. Ace stayed on until 2002 before once again stepping away. In later interviews, he spoke openly about his battles with addiction and how sobriety had changed his life. His 2009 album, Anomaly, marked a triumphant comeback for him. reaching the Billboard Top 30 and proving that even decades later, Ace Frehley could still make his guitar sing. He continued releasing solo records, including Space Invader in 2014 and Spaceman in 2018. Each a reminder that he was still that man that lit up stages everywhere. Offstage, Ace was known for his dry humor and self-deprecating wit. Fans always loved the fact that he never took himself too seriously. Even at the heights of the Kiss mania, he was still just a guy. But behind the jokes was a quiet, sensitive man who loved art, science fiction, and the simple joy of making music. He was once asked about fame, and he said, "I never thought I'd influence anybody. I was just a kid from the Bronx who wanted to play guitar." That kid went on to inspire millions. His riffs, his tone, his swagger, they became part of the DNA of hard rock. Whether you love Kiss or not, you couldn't really escape what Ace brought to the table. And he'll always be known as one of the founding members of one of the biggest US rock bands of all time. Any memories of Kiss you want to share? But leave your comments. I'm John Bowden. Share our videos on social media if you can. We'd love that. Subscribe to our channel and click the bell notification and like our videos. This is Rock History Music.